So I'd like to start with a picture, and it's really, really gross. So there's this girl out on a dock, and she's around this thing we call blue-green algae bloom, which is actually a bacteria. It's cyanobacteria. It's toxic, and it stinks. And this is a problem for the Red Cedar River Basin in west central Wisconsin. It's actually a global problem, though. It comes from phosphorus pollution. It's runoff off the land. And it's something that we're very concerned about here. This girl is obviously very concerned about here, and we're wanting to figure out what do we do about this. Well, arriving here in Menominee as an environmental sociologist, I'm really interested in this problem, so I started to find out more about it. And what I discovered is we actually know how to fix this problem. We have a lot of the technologies to change land use. We have some things we can do in the lakes. There's a combination of things that we can be doing. And so upon talking to people, I was like, well, let's do something. And they said, well, we need to get information out there. We got to get new knowledge. And so what we did was we sent around this documentary around the watershed to middle schools and high schools called Troubled Waters. It illustrates where our problems come from for blue-green algae bloom and our solutions, at least some ideas of some solutions. Sent them around all the middle schools and high schools. Kids watched it. We sent them a survey. And we asked them, okay, do you get it? And good news. Overwhelmingly, they said, we get it. This documentary was very informative. Thank you for sending it out. And I was excited, but I decided, I need to ask some other questions, right? Like, what are we going to do about this, right? So I asked them, are you willing to work with other people to try to address water pollution, now that you know? And they said, no, I don't think so, right? So we gave them an easier out, right? Why don't you just talk to other people? Would you be willing to talk with other people about this? And they said, no, I don't really want to do that either, right? And so this seemed depressing. This is what we call in sociology A-B split, attitude, behavior split. You understand, you value this, and you don't follow up on it. And so we asked them, what if you just engaged in some different personal behaviors, right? And so they actually said, yes, we're willing to engage in different personal behaviors to address water quality. Fantastic, right? Okay, they understand the problem. They're willing to engage in different personal behaviors. So this is good news, or at least some people thought so. And I looked at it as a sociologist, and I said, crap, we're screwed. So it turns out we can't possibly solve our social and environmental problems if we just ask people to engage in different personal behaviors. Take our overall ecological footprint, for example. How many acres of productive land that we require as Americans? So to give you an idea of an acre, this is a soccer field. Soccer field is roughly 2 acres, give or take, right? So as Americans, we on average need about, a dozen of these, about 24 productive acres, right? It's a lot. It's not sustainable. We know this. So what we've found is that people can engage in different personal behaviors. They can recycle and they can bike to work. And when they do these things, they leave their windows open during the summer instead of running air conditioning. They shop locally. They're never ever sick at sea. They're really responsible human beings, right? And they can actually cut this in half. Beautiful. Wonderful. Oh, except this. We actually need to get down to about 4 or 5 productive acres in terms of sustaining humanity on this earth, right? So this is a problem. How in the world are we going to get people to agree to be constrained to the level that we need to clean up not only blue-green algae bloom, but a lot of our other environmental problems to sustainably live on this earth, right? Well, it turns out we have some old ideas that are solutions to this. Very old ideas, specifically the idea of democracy. So we take the United States, we have this wonderful democracy. This is not unique to the planet. We have places like France that think that they invented democracy. They didn't. But they were going through one of 17 times where they tried to perfect democracy in the 1830s. They send this guy to America named Alexis de Tocqueville, tours around the country for about 9 months, and he writes this book, Democracy in America, and he says, this is the most wonderful functioning democracy I've ever seen. They've got it. This is what the Greeks dreamed about, right? Except for he had this chapter about slavery. He said, except for that, this is the most functional democracy in the world, and it's wonderful because the way the Americans spend their leisure time. They hang out with other people. They hang out at church, they hang out at bars, they hang out in public places, and they talk to one another. And what he said, they develop the civic mindedness, right? Where they're not just thinking about themselves, they're thinking about their connections to other people, because that's what they do. They connect to other people. Fast forward 170 years. We are not there anymore. We got this book. It was published by a political scientist, actually. We like to claim him in sociology, Robert Putnam, Bowling Alone. We're not bowling with other people as much anymore. We're bowling alone. Seen just in the last quarter century, a drop in people attending club meetings by about 58%, a drop in people having family dinners by about 43%, a drop in just having people over to our houses, friends, by about 35%. In other words, we're spending our leisure time engaging in things that are focused on ourselves. Shopping, try to improve our status with super fancy ties from Sean John, or I don't even know where this is from. Or we're sitting at home watching TV. We're separated from other people, right? We're not really connecting in real ways. And this is the secret to trying to figure out how to constrain one another. If we can actually care to know about one another, right? In real ways. People are different than us. And so this is what I've actually tried to do with my research instead of just producing great sociology, which I hope I do. And I hope I publish it in wonderful journals for the rest of my life, great. But with my research on the lake, what we do is bring in students from around the country to do research with us during the summer, and we do this great research in sociology, biology, anthropology, economics, and so on and so forth. And they do this great research. At the end of the summer, though, we have them present their research in the form of posters at a local coffee shop here in Menominee. And it's actually this really beautiful thing where people come and gain new knowledge, but the old idea is what's transformative. They come and gain new knowledge, but then they talk to one another. And maybe they talk about their kids, but maybe they're talking about some of this stuff, right? The blue-green algae bloom. And we've seen hundreds of people come just for one evening. People want this chance to talk about controversial stuff and to find solutions. And the research is great. But look at them hanging out drinking beers and drinking coffee with one another. These are the kinds of things that make democracy work and address our problems, our environmental and social problems. And the interesting thing is that this is what makes a civilization, not the development of new technologies. It's a wonderful thing. It's a TEDx talk, right? We want to promote technology and science. But without learning slowly to be kind, we're never going to get there. Right? This is a quote from Sir Charles Lucas from the 17th century. Again, these are old ideas. I actually got this from my dad, front row. Old ideas. This is probably one of the most important things that sociology has discovered, right? And this harkens back to all sorts of world religions. Look at Christianity, Mark chapter 9, right? Jesus is walking around with all the disciples, listening to them talk about who's the best disciple. And he gets done listening to them, and he's like, what are you guys so afraid of, right? The first should be last should be first. He gets into this thing. Focus on other people, right? This is how we start to see other people's perspectives, but also how can we constrain one another. And so the point of all of this is our connections to nature and people are really the same. If we want our connections to nature to be sustainable in real ways, we need to make our connections to other people real. And here's the interesting thing. To me, sociology has well documented this, that when we spend time developing friendships with other people, we're far happier than when we spend our time consuming things to impress other people or trying to talk to people in a way convincing them that you're right? Far happier when we actually take the time to listen. And this is sometimes really hard, isn't it? Especially some of you, I don't know if you can tell, I'm kind of extroverted. Some of us are not. And even for me, it's sort of hard sometimes. Put myself out there, right? And just listen. Instead of telling people I'm right. Because I'm a professor, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? Tell people I'm right. I'm actually happy when I don't, but it's scary, right? It's one of the most important things. If you take a look at these students from the end of this, or this is actually during the entire summer, this past summer, What was transformative for them was not learning research skills in and of itself. And they're going to get into great graduate programs, I think, for some of the research that they've learned to do, but it's the connections that they made to one another and to this community, right? They see their lives in a completely new way, and that's what I want for all of us. Thank you very much.